John Jay was a lawyer, revolutionary, founder, diplomat, and of course, the very first Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States. And in this video, we're going to take a quick look at this man's extraordinary life. John Jay came into the world with some advantages. Born in New York City in 1745, he was a member of one of New York's wealthiest merchant families. He was well educated during his childhood and had access to New York's social elite. This upbringing culminated at age 19 when, in 1764, he graduated King's College, which is now known as Columbia University, before being admitted to the New York bar 4 years later in 1768. Now, throughout his adult life, he ran a highly successful legal practice which ensured his name was known among the elite in New York's legal profession. The events of the American Revolution shaped the next stage of his life. In 1774, he became a member of New York's Committee of Correspondence, which was the local branch of a colony-spanning network that spread information, coordinated activities, and provided a nexus for revolutionary leaders. That same year, he served as a delegate to the First Continental Congress in Philadelphia, which sought, albeit unsuccessfully, to find a way to redress the colony's grievances without war. In part because of these activities, his reputation was substantial enough to win him the votes necessary to secure the presidency of the Second Continental Congress from 1778 to 1779. Jay proved quite able in advancing the cause of independence overseas. In 1779, he was appointed foreign minister to Spain, which, along with France, had sided with the American revolutionaries. From 1784 to 89, he served as America's Secretary of Foreign Affairs, which preceded the office of Secretary of State as we know it today. And we should also note that along with Alexander Hamilton and James Madison, Jay was one of the three authors of the Federalist Papers. However, John Jay is perhaps best known as the very first Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. The Jay Court spanned from 1789 to 1795. Like all six of the first justices, and remember there were 6 at that time, not 9 as there are today, Jay was appointed by President George Washington, and like all 6 of the first justices, he was a Federalist. During this time, the court briefly sat in New York City and later in Philadelphia. The judicial branch of the federal government was greatly aided by Congress's passage of the Judiciary Act and the Process Act of 1789. Both of these developments helped shape the court's ability to shape legal history. The Jay Court is remembered for establishing many of the court's procedures and internal administrative mechanisms. At this time, the justices were required to ride the circuits and to hear appeals around the country. Perhaps the most famous case to come out of this time period was 1792's Chisholm v. Georgia, but we'll discuss that case at a later time. Unlike today, Supreme Court justices regularly engaged in work outside of the court. For instance, in 1794, Jay's diplomatic acumen made him Washington's go-to guy to negotiate with Britain what would be called Jay's Treaty. This was to tie up loose ends left over from the 1783 Treaty of Paris, which ended the War for Independence. While the resulting treaty did not resolve all of the issues then existing between the two nations, it did quite a bit to resolve them, or at least bring tensions down until 1812. Jay resigned from his office in 1795, but it was not in disgrace. He returned to his native New York as governor. He had unsuccessfully sought that office in 1792, but managed to secure it the second time around. As far as the man's personal life went, back in 1774, he married Sarah Van Brugh Livingston. She herself was quite connected, being the daughter of New Jersey Governor William Livingston. The couple had 6 children throughout their marriage, and during the course of Jay's life, his 4 adult siblings became dependent on him as well. John Jay died in 1829, likely from complications caused by a stroke, but his contemporaries always spoke well of him. John Jay is not perhaps as famous as John Marshall, but his time on the court set many precedents for the court's administration. He is best remembered for standing up the apparatus that later Chief Justices would shape into a truly co-equal branch of federal government, as an able and energetic member of the founding generation, and as a capable New York governor. Now, if you learned something here today, please give the video a like, a save, and a share, and I will see you next time. Take care.